cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming. It's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
Welcome to all the Neanderthals, canines, and right-wing podcasters. Oh! It's Thursday, March 20th, 2025, and I'm live in my studio in central Pennsylvania. For those who have refugee questions, please revert your attention to the top of the screen above the chat. You'll find pinned up there a link to Substack. And Substack, you'll go there and you'll see the most recent article. It's from me. And it's a lot sexier looking as I put the correct URL links in there with images and larger titles so that people can see them more clearly. That will direct you to videos I prepared that are tied to the refugee resettlement program. Analysis and information, background checks, who's eligible, finances, and all those things for the 18 million questions that I'll get asked. So I ask you to please go there before asking questions in chat. Also understand if you're new to this channel and you're chatting just to ask me a question about refugee stuff, well, thank you for your confidence in me. I do appreciate that. But at the same time, this is the news program, and we need to get through the news. We have a lot of news after this. Neil DeBeer from the United Independent Movement will be with me. Hey, look at my hair, man. That feathered really well. I'm going to go get a haircut soon, but just look at how well that hair is feathered. I feel like Orange Man bad. Big hair. Big hair. Someone asked me to play Folk of Politica in my opening moments. Well, the problem with that, ladies and gentlemen, is I don't have copyright to Francois van Kolk's music, and therefore I will get a copyright strike and my channel will be taken down. I cannot play other people's music without their permission, except in limited circumstances. And then it's a copyright claim and it gets deleted. So, no, I'm not playing that music unless Francois van Kolk gives me permission. If he gives me permission, then I will play some of that music. I have copyright to Giselle's music. Unfortunately, YouTube is lazy and ignores the fact that I've repeatedly shared with them the copyright. And initially, they didn't bother me, but their automated system isn't bright, and they don't keep a record of the fact that you have a copyright. So I play it, but then I have to delete it after the video all the time. So there you go. All right. Been there and read them. Well, there's nothing to read. It takes you a link to a video. There's nothing to read. So, all right, but thank you for being there and checking it out. All right, let's get to the news, folks. So, some news. Canthan Pillay was on the program with me for Iconic with Canthan and Chris on Tuesday. And I mentioned a by-election in Saldanha Bay. And I said this could be an important by-election for the MK party because they have no support in the Western Cape thus far. If they could pull off, a decent performance here, it would be big news for MK. Well, ladies and gentlemen, not only did MK pull off a big performance, that they won the ward. Now, I know that sounds small, but winning a ward in Western Cape where MK parties had no support, historically tied to KZN and Gauteng, this is earth-shattering. The ANC ought to be very concerned, very, very concerned. Now, the one caveat to that is the popularity simply because Jacob Zuma is there, who's 81 years old, or is it for another reason? 3 by-elections were held across the country on Wednesday. The MK party won its first ward in the Western Cape. The MK party won its first ward in the Western Cape. Zwandile Sibobiko is the new ward councillor for Ward 1 in Middelpost, Saldanha Bay municipality. The ANC previously held the ward, but the position became vacant after the councillor died in December. 8 political parties were vying for it, but MK got 36.33% of the votes, 55% turnout. Wow. MK General Party Secretary General Floyd Shavambu took to Twitter to celebrate. MK affirmed its presence in Saldanha Bay municipality, and the next by-elections will win decisively on April 2nd. We will be welcoming new councillors of the MK. Ground forces must remain disciplined, respectful, humble, and focused. Well, I do have this to say to Floyd Shavambu. Ground forces, stop being an idiot. You're not a military. You don't even know what military is. You have no concept of discipline. Stop trying to false honor by claiming to be it. But here's the results of that election, folks. MK, 1,197 votes. They trounced the ANC, who got 859. The Patriotic Alliance did well at 654, but not nearly as well as they could. And the EFF did surprisingly well in Western Cape at 480 votes. The DA, nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. In its stronghold, the Western Cape, the DA can't even hold serve. Wow. Terrible news for the Democratic Alliance. Maybe they ought to reconsider their position on many things. Cyril Ramaphosa apparently is in no hurry to appoint an ambassador to the United States. Of course not. They're also not talking to the United States while telling South Africans that they're engaging the United States. They're not talking to the U.S. They are afraid to talk to the U.S. So, Mangwenya had a conversation in which he talked about this. President Cyril Ramaphosa will not rush to appoint a replacement for expelled Ambassador Ibrahim Rasool, despite lobbying by some stakeholders. Interesting. Now, why isn't South Africa rushing to put an ambassador out there? You've got to wonder. Well, once again, News 24 is running misinformation stories to mislead South Africans, and I'm going to talk about this one specifically. This one is from Jan Gerber at News 24, saying that information before Parliament disproves the very bad things Trump says are happening in Afrikaners. Unfortunately for Jan Gerber, the emails that I receive on a daily basis, the photographs of things that have happened to people, the video that they send me, disproves what he's saying. Very bad things are happening in South Africa and have been happening forever. They happened under apartheid. They've been getting progressively worse under the ANC. So this is nonsense. And they're going to try to rubbish this with a stupid report saying that agricultural optimism is up in South Africa. Yeah, so what? What's your point? Interest rates are up too. That's great for credit card companies. It isn't great for the rest of us. Stupid people make stupid comments. And look at that. Look at that gratuitous photograph that's set there. What is the purpose of that? This isn't news. That's sensationalism. You put a picture of him with what looks like a pout. I mean, what kind of news reporting is that? Objectivity? Folks, if you read a news report like this and the first thing you see is that, just dismiss it out of hand. That's not news. That's propaganda. That's absolute propaganda. It's nonsense, not news. Farm murders are a minuscule percentage of murders in South Africa, pouring cold water over the right-wing notion that South African government is permitting the killing of Afrikaner farmers as espoused by U.S. administration of Donald Trump. That is not what Donald Trump said. That is not what Donald Trump said. These people are just liars. They're liars. They take what they want and they just distort it for whatever it means. That is not what Donald Trump said in his Truth Social post, in his executive order. He did not say what Jan Gerber just claimed. Jan Gerber is lying to you and misleading you. But you know what? That is par for the course for South Africa. That is par for the course for so-called journalists in South Africa who spew this nonsense and play these little games. The bottom line here is that this is utter garbage and nonsense. I'm trying to find some of this information now. Sorry. A bunch of mail came in I had to deal with here. So let me see if I can't find this. I got his Truth Social post here somewhere. There it is. All right, so this is what he actually said in his Truth Social post. I had the previous one, but this is the most recent one from March 7th. South Africa is being terrible, plus to longtime farmers in the country. They're confiscating their land and farms. Yes, people are doing that, not the government. And much worse than that. A bad place to be right now. We are stopping all federal funding. To go a step further, any farmer from South Africa seeking to flee the country will be invited to citizenship. Process will begin immediately. I'm sorry. Now, where is it that Trump said that they're permitting the killing of Afrikaner farmers? He didn't say that. He didn't say anything about the government permitting farmers to be killed. That's a lie. It's an outright lie. This is misinformation. Intentional. Or disinformation, we should say. Misinformation is a mistake. Disinformation is intentional. So this would have to be disinformation coming from your trusted media outlet. It's an outright lie. But, it's par for the course. That's what we get all the time from the media in South Africa. Simply dishonest. Dishonest News 24. Stop printing lies. There's no reason to do this. What are you so afraid of that you have to print lies and mislead people? There's no reason to mislead people. You can run the story and say that agricultural optimism is high, which is ironic given the fact that there's a whole row right now between the United States and South Africa, presumably over something to do with farming, and that maybe the Americans are mistaken. That would be news. It would be op-ed, but it would be accurate too. But this is just nonsense, utter nonsense. On Wednesday, Portfolio Committee of Police and the Portfolio Committee on Agriculture had a joint meeting about the police's rural safety strategy following a petition from the public calling for a National Assembly to investigate attacks. So the public put a petition in. Not Donald Trump. That they choose to run a story rubbishing Donald Trump because the public asked for answers. And the public asked for answers because people are being murdered and killed and tortured in the countryside. Yep. The only crime that saw an increase was robbery with aggravating circumstances. Well, that's also a lie, too. It's about time that the media start admitting that most crimes go unreported. Why? Because South Africans know that SAPs won't do anything, or that they don't have the resources to respond, or that they'll treat you like shit when you come in. So most crime in South Africa goes unreported. It's like traditionally most rapes go unreported. The trauma, the shame, the horror that is inflicted on people, mostly women, but sometimes men, is something that people don't want to repeat, and they simply do not report a rape. So 97% of rapes, or 90 or 99% of rapes, are never reported. It's now the same with most crime in South Africa. So telling us the crime statistics are better is horse manure. It's utter nonsense. It's not reading the room. It's not being honest. It's being cognitively dissonant from what's going on here. So, what else? The police. We are not able to, from our current information systems, accurately identify when a case is related to rural security. So they rubbish, Jan Herber rubbishes the fact that people aren't being killed on farms. AfriForum Solidarity, they contested the numbers that the police commissioner or police minister Mkunu reported. He said only one murder in the last period. They came up with 12. And then after tarnishing Donald Trump for South African crime statistics to claim that Trump is wrong when Trump never said what Jan Herber is claiming. See this? Trump didn't say it. Herber claimed he said something. Then Herber is making shit up to attack Donald Trump based on something that South African citizens requested because of the security issues in the rural area. What the hell does Trump have to do with any of this? Other than Jan Herber telling lies about what Trump said. He didn't say that. That's not what's here. And I know he said more than this. But he didn't say that the South African government is allowing murders of Afrikaners. He didn't say that on his tarmac comments. He didn't say that in his executive order. He did not say that in his Truth Social post. It's just lies. So you make up a lie. This is communism. This is the Soviet fascism. You make up a lie about someone you don't like, Donald Trump. For what? Clicks? Just tell the truth. And then he says, well, it's bad information. Right-wing groups are telling this. It's not true. Only one murder. Then they come down and the police admit, well, there were 12 murders. But we can't accurately report on it because we don't break statistics down the way. So what's the point of this article? Sometimes you might have a murder case that might not be reported on a farm, but they may have originated from a farm. Wow. Unbelievable. So then he actually quotes the executive order and he quotes the tweet. And he still gets it wrong. Then he talks about Ernst Roots in 2018. What does Ernst Roots 7 years ago have to do with this conversation? Nothing. It says Trump's claim that land is being confiscated has also been debunked by information currently before Parliament. No, it hasn't. Even your state-owned propaganda outlet, South African Broadcasting Corporation, reported on land grabs. In Seshego. We have the digits. We've published it. We've told you about people confiscating land. Oh, but the government's not. Who said the government was? Trump never said the government's confiscating land. Never said that. Never said the government's confiscating land. He said they're confiscating land, which means somebody. This is just stupid. This is stupid. This is not even a news story. This is, Adrian Basson, you should be ashamed of yourself. You're the editor. Who's editing these stories? It's just people dreaming up fantasies. Unbelievable. Well, speaking of cognitive dissonance and other stupid people should wear signs, folks. That way you wouldn't ask them questions. Hey, so I was wondering, how do I get to... Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see your sign. Here's your sign. Anyway, stupid people. So this is a post from the Progressive International. Expect that to go very well. Let me read this to you and show you how stupid these people are. All right? Bunch of leftist lunatics. President Donald Trump's 7 February order halts critical financial aid under the false pretense of protecting Afrikaners from government-sponsored race-based discrimination. In reality, his order marks a retaliation against South Africa for daring to pursue its self-determination home and express its solidarities abroad. No, that's not what happened. Okay, let me help you out, you morons. Okay, so let's see who some of these idiots are. Let's see. The well-known English family of Adnan Hussein from the United Kingdom. Yes, and a whole bunch of other people. Ayub Khan, the other famous Anglo-Saxon family from the UK. Andy MacDonald, the Scottish family from the UK. And the list goes on and on. What a bunch of dingbat doorknobs these people are. What a bunch of dingbat doorknobs. So they scour the world. They can only find 175 loser leftists who will put their name to this. Isn't that interesting? I wonder if Jeremy Corbyn's on here. Let's see if they got Jeremy Corbyn on here. They're going by first name. What kind of morons go by first name? Jeremy Corbyn. There he is. Dipshit Jeremy Corbyn. Look, you morons, first off, you're liars. It's not about the Afrikaners. Read the damn order. It's about the offenses against the United States national interest. But you're too stupid to read that. And us cutting financial aid wasn't to South Africa. See, you morons make this about South Africa. The Socialists or Progressive International and the South African government. It wasn't about South Africa. The entire world had financial aid suspended from January 20th for 90 days. But what does South Africa do? They get up and start whining. Oh, you're intruding on our sovereignty. Then you lie. Well, America, well, it's only 17% of the HIV money. We don't really need it. They can go stuff it. They can foot sec. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, come on. Stop. Now we got Nicholas Kristof writing tearjerker articles, and we have time to get to that today. I'll read to you some of the tearjerkers there. Look, folks, I appreciate that people are suffering, but you know what? It's a big world. Why is it on our shoulders? How about the other 8,650,000,000 people get off their ass and help the other people? Why is it left to 5% of the world's population to carry the rest and be called racist for helping them out? I'm sorry. Kids are dying. Yeah. And kids are dying in Sudan because two governments are killing each other. Black people are murdering black people. What's your point? And people are dying in Myanmar because a military junta is murdering the Rohingya and the people who are trying to overthrow their corrupt, illegitimate government. People are dying in China. They're called Uyghurs, harvesting organs after they gang rape them in prisons. Yeah, okay, so people are dying all over. People are dying in Ukraine. White people killing white people. What's your point? People are dying in Africa because of decisions taken by Africans and by African governments. They're not decisions made by America. You expect that we're supposed to give people money into perpetuity? You had 22 years to sort it out. A 5-year program. Continued for 22 years. Stupid people. You know, they shit all over us when we give you money. And then we stop giving money and you shit all over us again. Well, ladies and gentlemen, shocking news in the Joslyn Smith case where it turns out that the state's witness apparently has been lying in the trial. What? The credibility of the state's key witness in the Joslyn Smith human trafficking kidnapping trial in Saldanha Bay was on the line today as defense pointed out discrepancies in her evidence. In a surprise twist, former co-accused Laurencia Lombard admitted to lying to a police captain during an interview after being arrested about which day of the week she heard the conversation about the 20,000 rand allegedly paid to a Sangoma for Joslyn. Now, interesting, remember that the purported Sangoma in this was dismissed with no charges after being arrested. So the whole thing has been fishy from the beginning. Lombard has consistently maintained the discussion happened on February 18th, the day before Joslyn went missing. Would you be surprised that the video said that it was Monday, the 20th? Lombard said she was confused, but had on that Monday visited the shack occupied by Joslyn's mother. So now her credibility has been thrown into question. I don't know what happened to poor little Joslyn Smith. We can all speculate, but the truth is certainly not coming out in this trial. That's unfortunate. Well, folks, there's been no confiscation or expropriation of land in 10 years. That's an answer Dee McPherson gave to a parliamentary question from a member of parliament. Now, I have two things to say about this, and I've made a video on this topic. Number one, why has there been no expropriation for 10 years? If land is so critical and land is in shortage and desperate need, the government has a mechanism to acquire land through Section 25 of the Constitution through expropriation with just and fair compensation. Why aren't they expropriating land that they need? So the problem isn't landowners. The problem isn't white people. The problem isn't brown people. The problem is the government of South Africa, which is not taking advantage of their ability to expropriate property when necessary in the public interest and compensate the owner. Why? Because they don't care. This is a useful issue to beat a minority up so they can distract from their failures elsewhere. That's why the land has not been resolved and won't be resolved. Just like Zimbabwe, it's a useful tool to distract from what's actually going on as they steal everything out of the back door. So, McPherson answered these questions in Parliament, and the truth of the matter is, yeah, there's been no confiscation or no expropriation of land. But that's the government's fault, not the farmer's fault. I'm not arguing for expropriation. I think it's immoral, except in the most dire of circumstances, like to build railroads or communication lines or for national defense. Other than that, or border defense, there's no legitimate basis for taking people's land, even with compensation. So, the point here is to make the claim that nothing's being done. We have a law and nothing's happening. Well, the ink is still wet on that law. So I don't want to hear your nonsense about this. Now, Dee McPherson, I'm not going to beat him up because he was simply answering questions. But then he got beat up by the left, which is stupid. He answered their questions and then they attacked him. In response to a question from Rise Mzansi MP Makashule Ghana, he said there hasn't been any land expropriation by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure over a period of 10 years. Okay. Well, Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, by the way, that's also a misleading headline. No expropriation. Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, are they the only ones that can get land? Isn't the Department of Agriculture and Land, which has now been broken out and given to this freaking, lunatic party, isn't that the ministry that was responsible for expropriating land? So if this ministry didn't expropriate land, does that mean no land was expropriated? I mean, you see how this is, and there's no mention or discussion of that in the article. At a minimum, someone should tell people, since we had a ministry that was devoted to land reform, it was part of the agriculture ministry, now it's separate. we should say we went to them and they said, no, they've not confiscated land. They've not expropriated land. But that's not even included in the article. Do you see how it leaves the question begging? This is a key fallacy, a key failure in journalism, a key failure in writing. When you write, you don't leave the question hanging. You don't leave your audience wondering. You answer their questions. You anticipate the questions. And the question should have been anticipated here is like, okay, so this department, this ministry hasn't confiscated land for public works. Are they the ones with the authority to do it? Are they the only ministry? Has any land been expropriated by any other ministry? Those are legitimate questions, not addressed in the article. Not even addressed. Watch them go back now and edit the article, because I know you're watching my content, News 24. I know you are. And if you want a real editor, I've been an editor for professional journals. I'd be happy to help out. You know, if you want a real editor, someone that actually takes the gobbledygook given to you by your journalist and edits things out. Well, that's not factual. You didn't quote that person correctly. This is not congruent with what the rest of your story says. Why are you talking about this and now you're suddenly talking about that? You need to do a transition from this topic to the other. Otherwise, pull it out of the article. Say, we got somebody who knows how to edit here. Well, there you go, folks. There you go. Well, Naledi Pandor has been appointed to University of Pretoria Honorary Professor in Education. Solo. Young Jedi. Pizza the Hut. Pizza the Hut. Naledi Pandor is now a professor at Tux. Can you believe it? The revenge of the other people who were denied access. Almost no black students ever went to Tux, and now she's a professor. University of Pretoria has appointed former cabinet minister Naledi Pandor, who destroyed basic education and tertiary education in South Africa, as an honorary professor in the Faculty of Education. What could she possibly teach us other than to hate Jews and to love Palestinians? That's about the only thing she can teach you. Professor Pandor is a leader whose impact on education policy and innovation, whose unwavering commitment to advancing higher education and sustainable development aligns perfectly with the mission of the center. Thank you, Teeny, for your membership. Says UP Vice Chancellor and Professor Francis Peterson. Really? The decline in educational standards started under Naledi Pandor, Minister 30%, along with Angie Mosheka. She started this. She was Minister of Basic Education 20 years ago. That's when it all went sideways. And then she was Minister of Tertiary Education, higher education. And the universities are a mess. But now we're going to give Pizza the Hut an honorary professorship. Teaching and education, no less. What a joke. What an absolute joke. I didn't bother making a video on this because it's too farcical. Well, South Africa is looking to do what Trump is doing. Criticizing the Trump administration for its tariffs, South Africa embarks on a tariff campaign. You can't make this stuff up. Don't be late to the Rumble party. What Rumble party is that, Tony? Welcome, Tony. So, thank you for your membership. So, South Africa makes move to hike steel tariffs as mills face closure. Orange Man Bad is putting tariffs in. He's an isolationist. He doesn't believe in free trade. South Africa introduces tariffs on steel products to protect its market. South Africa faced the prospect that ArcelorMittal closing 2 steel mills crucial to the local manufacturing industry has begun a review of major import tariffs on metals and is proposing other methods of protecting the industry. Well, there you go. The South African industry faces numerous challenges, including an influx of low-priced and often substandard imports, according to the International Trade Administration Commission said in the Government Gazette on Wednesday. Well, so you're using protectionism while attacking Donald Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, I did a video on this yesterday, which is not getting much circulation. I don't know why. Typical sort of thing. The media, in this case, actually reported on this, the Saturday Star and the Independent Line. Got to give credit to the Independent Line. They're actually covering a real news story here about farm murder. And I've covered farm murder. If it had been a white person, then I would have had all the trolls come on, the black supremacists and white liberals, and see, you only care about white people, white supremacists. Oh! That's what we'd see. But guess what? This isn't a white person. This was a black South African murdered, 60-year-old farmer murdered when he went out to check on his cattle, 3 of which had been poached or stolen. Or rustled, however you want to say that. And he's murdered, and his body was missing for a few days when finally they took them, the murderers, the suspected murderers, took them to the location where the body was. Meanwhile, the villagers took things of their own control and burned houses. This vigilantism needs to stop. But that's not what the story is about, not the vigilantism, but rather the story is about the fact that a black farmer was murdered, and the media is largely ignoring this. News 24 had no story on this. Times Live had no story on this. I saw nothing on Daily Maverick or on Mail and Guardian. But to be fair, those two publications are more weeklies than dailies. Limpopo farmer slain, 2 arrested over livestock theft as angry community riots. Yep. Provincial Police spokesperson Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Takeng reported that on the afternoon of 27 February, a 60-year-old farmer, David Netchele Papala, went to his kraal to check on his cattle. Upon arrival, he discovered that 3 of his cattle were missing. He was missing. 2 days later, people started looking for him, and villagers burned suspected murderers' houses. Yeah, life is cheap in South Africa, and especially if you're black or brown, the media doesn't bother to cover your horrific deaths unless you're a very attractive-looking 9-month pregnant girl named Sifatso Pule. Then they'll cover the story, or a UCT student who was tricked by a postal worker and raped and bludgeoned to death. Other than that, your death doesn't matter. The 73 South Africans murdered every day are just a statistic that the media glosses over because it doesn't affect them. It only affects them when they can use it to perpetrate a myth of white genocide, which is a myth that they've created, a myth that they are fueling, a myth that they're running around telling people all the time, and then trying to use it and attach it to Donald Trump and Afroforum and Solidarity. None of those actors said anything about that. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, the domestic terrorism trial for the daughter of Jacob Zuma is set for November. Senior MK Party member Duduzile Suma Sambudla made a fleeting appearance in the KwaZulu-Natal High Court, sitting in the magistrate's court when a date was set for her terrorism trial. The 42-year-old never accomplished anything daughter of former President MK Party leader Jacob Zuma is facing charges under protection of constitutional democracy against terrorist and related activities for incitement to commit violence during the July 2021 riots. Well, now, nearly 4 years later, she's finally going to come to justice over 4 years after the incident happened. Walking around endangering public safety, nothing happens. Meanwhile, News 24 ran another story, which I made a satire video about yesterday, about News 24 going through the documents, 80,000 pages released on the JFK files, and discovering that the CIA was operating in South Africa 61 years ago. And trying to bootstrap that into a story about present, contemporary South Africa. If the CIA was in South Africa 61 years ago, let me explain to the leftist News 24 and to the government of South Africa. If they were in South Africa spying 61 years ago, this is around Sharpeville time, shortly after. Lapis Labaskagna, thank you. Is that our shark, Lapis Labaskagna? Thank you for being here. If they were spying on South Africa from inside South Africa 61 years ago, they were spying on the National Party. That's bad? Don't you hate the National Party? Didn't you hate apartheid? Wouldn't someone trying to find out what was going on with apartheid and report accurately on it so the governments can make decisions about apartheid? Wouldn't that be good? But no, News 24 tries to go, oh, the CIA was in South Africa. Oh, 61 years ago, they were spying. Oh, my goodness. Tanzania has reported its first case of monkeypox. And just like all the woke normies, these little clowns no longer call it monkeypox, but that's a proper colloquial name for it. They call it Mpox. Mpox. The hell is Mpox? It's monkeypox. Monkeypox. I don't know any monkeys who are offended by the racial slur. I've never met any monkeys who said, stop calling me monkeypox. I've also never met anyone in the West Nile region who said they're offended by the name West Nile virus. Or anybody from Ebola region of Zaire going, why are you calling the virus Ebola? You've harmed my dignity. Or anybody in the Rocky Mountains going, why do you call this a Rocky Mountain spotted fever? That's wrong. You shouldn't do that. Or the people from South Korea near the Hanta River going, Hunta, you're calling it the Hunta virus. You are denigrating our Korean dignity. No, nobody ever says that. But when we say monkeypox, because it's associated with monkeys, suddenly people have a problem because racists make the connection between a monkey and some human beings. Only a racist would make the connection. So the people using Mpox are the racists. It's called monkeypox. Get over it, folks. Tanzania has confirmed that its first 2 cases of monkeypox, the first time the virus has been detected in an outbreak that has hit several African countries. 2 individuals exhibiting symptoms were isolated and tested on Saturday, according to Health Minister Janitza Magama. Among the suspects, they're not suspects, they're not criminals. Among the suspects, one is a truck driver who traveled from a neighboring country. They're not suspects. I mean, among the suspected cases. These people are not suspects. War-torn Congo is offering a mineral deal for the United States. They're offering a mineral deal for the United States. Folks, this is not good. The United States should not be engaged in this. We should ignore the offer from Felix Tshisekedi because it is not something the United States should get involved in, not even remotely. I'm telling you, this is bad mojo, folks. Not something the United States should get involved in. I mean, in the words of Admiral Akbar, I mean, honestly, Admiral Akbar knows the answer to this. Don't go to the Congo, Donald Trump. Don't go to the Congo. Why?
It's a trap.
It's a trap. It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Don't go to the Congo. Bad idea. Bad idea. Bad idea. Not something that's going to go well for the United States should we get involved in this. Not a good plan. Stay away from it. Stay away from it. So, the leader of a war-torn African nation has put a deal on the table for President Trump. Help his country defeat a powerful rebel force in exchange for access to a trove of minerals needed by high-tech U.S. firms. Felix Tshisekedi, president of DRC, offered mining opportunities for the U.S. Sovereign Wealth Fund should we get rid of M23. So you want us to send our soldiers to the Congo to end your conflict with a group that is at odds with the government in Brazzaville or in Kinshasa. I don't think so. Bad idea. Well, the leader of M23 brushes off the ceasefire, saying he's going to fight on. Despite the talks they had, peace talks, the leader of the rebel alliance in the sea swats of East Congo told Reuters today that insurgents were not bound by ceasefire call by the presidents of Congo and Rwanda, and they cast any minerals for security deal with the U.S. as treachery. DRC President Felix Tshisekedi and his Rwandan counterpart Paul Kagame had met in Doha, but the rebels say no thanks. Once again, rubbishing the notion that the rebels in the Congo are under the control of Paul Kagame and Rwanda, unless it's just a feint. Meanwhile, an American man held by the Taliban illegitimately as a prisoner for more than 2 years has been released, according to the State Department. An American man who was abducted more than 2 years ago while traveling through Afghanistan as a tourist has been released by the Taliban. George Glesman, an airline mechanic from Atlanta, is the third American detainee to be released by the Taliban since January, since Trump became president. In a statement, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Glesman was on his way back to the United States to be reunited with his wife. He praised Qatar for his steadfast commitment and diplomatic efforts that he said were instrumental in securing his release. Interesting. No mention that Trump's team was involved here. Of course not. Turkey detains 37 more people in an escalating crackdown in opposition to the dictator for life, Erdogan. Turkey's government escalates crackdown on the opposition today, detaining 37 people for social media posts about the arrest of the popular mayor. So people are posting on social media that the mayor has been arrested, and so they got arrested. And this is a NATO country. Do you see why Turkey was never admitted to the European Union? Fascist totalitarianism. This is a country where the military guaranteed a secular democracy for decades, only to be neutered by the president for life, Erdogan, in a fake coup. A fake coup in which he arrested tens of thousands of lawyers, business leaders, senior military officers, police, and anyone that he considered to be an opponent. Many of them still languish in jail 6-7 years later. Unbelievably. Meanwhile, the stick my nose in everything, unwanted, undesirable pontiff is recovering. Vatican says Pope Francis no longer uses a mechanical ventilator as his condition improves. Pope Francis' conditioning is improving and no longer needs a mechanical ventilator to help him breathe at night. The 88-year-old pontiff has been hospitalized at Rome's Gemelli Hospital for nearly 5 weeks after being diagnosed with a complex lung infection developed in pneumonia in both lungs. It's required evolving treatment, including the use of non-invasive mechanical ventilation. Holy Father has suspended non-invasive mechanical ventilation and is also less need of high-flow oxygen therapy. The doctors say his infections are under control. They're not fully eliminated. His blood test results are normal, and he continues to be fever-free. Well, there you go. So, the nosy Pope who says that America should take in immigrants when his country, Argentina, is vacant and has lots of land. Let's send them all to Argentina. See what he has to say. Meanwhile, Canada is looking to back out of deals it signed like a typical welcher and wants to come up with an alternative to the joint strike fighter because of their pissy little, whiny little leftist politicians. Europe and Canada are eyeing alternatives to an American-made fighter. Well, good. I think we should disable all their fighters then and discontinue all parts to them. Questions are mounting in Canada and Europe over whether big-ticket purchases of high-end U.S. weaponry such as the F-35 strike fighter are a wise strategic choice, worried about their investment in U.S. defense technology. Yep. So, it's interesting. In less than 2 months, Donald Trump is accused of upending the NATO alliance, questioning whether the United States will continue to be committed. Well, what you're questioning is whether you continue to get a free ride. Where's the commitment of the Germans to spend 0.7% of the GDP on defense? Where's the commitment of the Danes to spend less than 2% on defense? Where's the commitment of the UK, who also spends less than 2%, then claims they spend 2% because they include retirement salaries for military? That's not 2%. That's not defense spending. Where are all these countries in their commitment to NATO? Nowhere to be found, except for the Baltic states and, of course, Poland. Zelensky agreed to a ceasefire. Really? No, he agreed to stop targeting Russian energy targets. President Trump floated the idea of the United States taking control of Ukrainian power plants. According to U.S. officials, the Ukrainian president said he was not pressured about the proposal. But he is calling for halts on targeting energy locations. However, the Ukraine has, in the midst of supposedly a ceasefire, has attacked Russian air base with a massive drone attack. Russian authorities reported a massive Ukrainian drone attack on Engels Air Base overnight, with Russian Defense Ministry claiming to have downed 54 drones. Saratov and Engels today suffered the most massive UAV attack of all time, said Roman Busagarin, the governor of the region. He reported a fire burning at the airfield and damage to 30 houses in the area. Windows were blown out of a nearby hospital. So Ukraine has no interest in peace. They've never had interest in peace. They're just as bad as the Russians. They're both corrupt. They're both evil. And people die. People die every day because Joe Biden, Jens Stoltenberg, and Europeans fueled this crisis. And Volodymyr Zelensky and his arrogance precipitated a war, which was started by Vladimir Putin. The only person in the world with any political power who seems to care about ending this conflict is Donald John Trump. Danish Prime Minister, Europe must be totally able to defend itself. After being a laggard, leech, free rider for 6 decades, the Danes are waking up to their responsibilities. Europe needs to become totally self-reliant in defense within the next 3 to 5 years to deter very aggressive Russia that may otherwise attack an EU country, according to Denmark's Prime Minister. I'm totally in favor of rearming Europe, and I want us to put on a very ambitious goal on the table, saying that in 3 to 5 years we need to be able to totally defend ourselves. Now, of course, what's going on here is Europe's economy is faltering. They're faltering. And because of their protectionism, because of the tariffs that Trump is now imposing on them, because they protect their economy from American imports, the Europeans are in grave economic trouble. So what do? They resort to war. They fire up their military-industrial complex to produce weapons to give for the slaughter in Ukraine and to refill their own arsenals by getting rid of their crap, ancient 30, 40-year-old main end items by sending them to Ukraine so people can die there. And they fill their stocks up, and then they fuel the defense industry, hoping this will keep their economies from sinking. This is the military-industrial complex that everybody whines about in America, which is virtually non-existent, but it sure is existent in the European Union. Well, Hungary has banned LGBTQ plus pride parades. Wow. Hungary has passed a law banning pride marches, sparking outrage in and out of the country. Parliament voted for the measure just a day after the bill was submitted. In a fast-track process fast-tracked by the Fidesz party under Prime Minister Viktor Orban. He praised legislation which bans the event on alleged grounds it's harmful to children, saying we won't let woke ideology endanger our kids. Pride marches have been held for 30 years in Hungary. Opposition lawmakers lit flares during the voting session Thursday while demonstrators blocked a bridge in central Budapest. So look at these idiots. They should be arrested for endangering public safety. Morons. Well, that's not going to go well for the gay community. Prime Minister Mark Carney, who hopefully won't be Prime Minister for very long, is expected to call for a federal election on Sunday. Prime Minister Mark Carney is expected to call for a federal election on Sunday for a vote as early as April 28th. Sources couldn't confirm a specific date, but federal campaigns must run at least 37 days. This will be Canada's 45th federal election. Carney was elected as Liberal leader to succeed Justin Trudeau on March 9th and was sworn in on March 14th. Yeah, so he will be calling for election probably in late April. That should be interesting to see. 1/5 of Canadian companies are looking at relocating to the United States because of the tariffs that Donald Trump put on Canada. Tariffs don't work. It's isolationism. Trump's point about people coming back and doing the manufacturing in America is proving true. 1 out of 5 Canadian companies are talking about relocating to the United States. And the Canadians think that they're going to win this game of chicken with Donald Trump. You're going to lose 1/5 of your companies. They're going to relocate into the United States to avoid the tariffs, move the production back to America. 1 out of 5 Canadian companies. You think you can survive that? I don't think so. I don't think Canada can survive that. Stupid people. Stupid people. Some Canadian companies considering moving to the United States as a strategy to evade tariffs and protect the future of their businesses. 19% of the 283 Canadian companies that participated in the survey indicated they would consider relocating part or all their production to the U.S. to safeguard their sustainability of their operations. Many are considering moves south of the border, where from industrial and automotive industries. Yep, industrial and automotive industries, the value chain. Canada, keep playing chicken with us. I warned you this is what happened. The Canadian companies would wind up moving their production back in the United States. But oh, no. Well, we are Canada. Oh, the great white north. In all thy, well, not sons, in all thy, I don't know. They changed the lyrics. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true north. Anyway, yeah, so dumb decision. The Liberals destroying Canada left and right. If you'd only cooperated with Donald Trump and shown some reciprocity instead of taking advantage of America, you wouldn't be in this boat. Meanwhile, the Pentagon is eyeing some very, very dunderheaded moves here. Pentagon weighs major cuts on top of U.S. military. Yep, the Pentagon is considering making significant cuts to the top of the military as the Trump administration seeks to shrink the federal government. Yep. Among those eye-catching measures being considered are merging European Command and African Command into a single command based in Stuttgart and combining U.S. Northern and Southern Commands into a single command, AMERICOM. Yeah, this is not a good idea, ladies and gentlemen. We've been down this road. We visited this before. What happens is that now we'll have even less engagement, even less influence across Africa, which is the continent that matters the most in the next 30 years. It is the continent that matters the most in the next 30 years because the only growth economically that's going to come in a major way for the world will be in Africa between now and 2050. This decision, if they do it, is dunderheaded, and it's a dumb move. Ever since Africa Command has been created, there's been effort to eliminate it. This is dumb. This is dumb. Someone needs to talk to Pete Hegseth and explain to him why it's dumb. The cost of Africa Command is only $30-40 million per year. It's nothing. The savings is nothing. This is dumb. Dumb. So I told you I would hold the Trump administration accountable when they make dumb decisions and they fall short. Here they fall short. A dumb decision. Well, the White House is urging the Supreme Court to rein in judges blocking Trump's policies. U.S. district judges have been entering injunctions against various policies, prompting pushback from the White House and the president. And there's Carolyn Leavitt with her dyed hair. The White House on March 19th urged the Supreme Court to take action with regard to judges that have been blocking actions of President Trump's administration. It's incumbent upon the Supreme Court to rein in these activist judges. These partisan activists are undermining the judicial branch by doing so. Well, I'm not really sure what the Supreme Court can do to these judges. They're acting as partisan activists from the bench. They're trying to dictate policy from the President of the United States. They're trying to clearly slow walk his administration's agenda, and it's unacceptable. Well, the Supreme Court didn't respond, but I don't know exactly what the Supreme Court can do to justices who misbehave. Key GOP lawmakers are also up in arms about the possible changes to the Pentagon's combatant commands. I'm not alone. Top Republicans in the Senate House Armed Services Committee said Wednesday night that they're very concerned about reports the Pentagon is weighing major changes in the military's combatant command structure. Senator Roger Wicker, Mississippi, and Representative Mike Rogers, Alabama, said they will not accept significant changes to their warfighting structure. The strong comments amid reports the Defense Department is considering significant changes to the European Command, including giving up its traditional role of U.S. general serving as NATO's Supreme Allied Commander. Other changes could see the European Command, U.S. African Command combined. U.S. combatant commands are the tip of the American warfighting spear. Therefore, we are very concerned about reports that claim DoD is considering unilateral changes. Wow, this is not good, folks. So a little riff with senior Republicans, and I hope they stand firm. The Department of Justice is moving to drop a lawsuit from the Biden regime that stopped Texas officers from arresting illegal immigrants. The agency sued Texas in 2024 over a state law. U.S. Department of Justice notified a court that it wants a lawsuit against a Texas immigration law dismissed. The plaintiff, the United States of America, hereby voluntarily dismisses the above-captioned action, lawyers for the DOJ said. Under President Biden, the DOJ in 2024 sued Texas over state law that enabled state police officers to arrest and deport illegal immigrants. Yep, and then the federal government tried to stop them from kicking criminal aliens out of our country. What kind of world is this? Greenpeace is done, folks. Unless they have insurance, they are done and dusted, finished and klar. Niet, nein, nix in de Bahnhof. They're gone. They finally paying the price for their terrorism all over the world. Greenpeace ordered to pay hundreds of millions in oil pipelines, sued the environmentalist group and others protested the Dakota Access Project for months back in 2016. Greenpeace will have to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to the company behind the Dakota Access Pipeline after a North Dakota jury found the environmental group liable for defamation and trespassing in connection with protests against the project nearly a decade ago. It is high time that these domestic terrorists, international terrorists who violate law and endanger public safety from Greenpeace by bashing against boats at sea, by invading property, by cutting fences, by endangering public safety, that they pay a price for their criminal actions. It is more than just that this happened. So this will be the end of Greenpeace, most likely, unless they have an insurance settlement. Greenpeace said it would fight back against the more than $660 million judgment, including by appealing North Dakota Supreme Court. Last year, Greenpeace said the lawsuit would hurt its ability to continue campaigns. Of course it will. It will also wipe you out. Greenpeace is gone. This will destroy Greenpeace as an organization, and the cockroaches will spread new organizations, but this one will be done in. The end of Greenpeace as we know it is in the offing. I don't know where they get $660 million from. They're going to file for bankruptcy. The Trump administration has iced $175 million given to the University of Penn over transgender athletes in women's sports. The White House's rapid response team said the administration had paused $175 million in funding from the Ivy League university over its policies forcing women to compete with men in sports. Promises made, promises kept. University ignited a national debate over transgender athletes in women's sports during the 2021 swim season, which saw Penn swimmer Leah Thomas become the first transgender athlete to win. I'm confused. Leah Thomas didn't go to Penn, went to Penn State. So I think there's some confusion here. Anyway, University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia may be part of the state system of universities, but Penn State is where Leah Thomas swam from, up in College Park in Happy Valley. Trump is set to sign an executive order today closing down the Department of Education. Well, the media claims it takes an act of Congress to change it. We shall see. This will go to the courts too as Trump tries to shut down the Education Department. The White House has forced out the chief executive officer of the failed, bankrupt, ridiculous passenger service known as Amtrak, which only suits the rich and connected on the East Coast. The White House this week forced Amtrak CEO Stephen Gardner to step down as head of the U.S. passenger railroad after President Trump sought changes. Well, that is long overdue, frankly, folks. I'm not at all surprised this is what happened. But they are done and dusted here. So he's resigned as the CEO, and that is interesting to say the least. So the Trump administration forces out someone that they didn't want to be there. Surprise, surprise. Not a shocker. Donald Trump urges the Federal Reserve to cut the interest rates. I don't think they're going to listen to him. Do the right thing, Trump says to Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell hates Donald Trump, and Jerome Powell hates America, so I don't think he's going to lower it. He thinks he knows everything, and he's the expert. President Trump is urging the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates. The Fed would be much better off cutting rates as U.S. tariffs start to transition their way into the economy. Do the right thing. April 2nd is Liberation Day in America, he said. Jerome Powell said Tuesday the Open Market Committee voted to keep rates steady but signaled they're on track for cuts later this year. Well, we'll see. We will see, the masters of the universe. Well, I'm going to get to that later on. Violent attacks on Tesla. Pam Bondi calls them domestic terrorism. And the left wants that not to be said, but experts in the field say it's a perfectly fine description because that's what it is. Attorney General Pam Bondi pledges prosecution against anti-Musk vandals. The swarm of violent attacks on Tesla property is nothing short of domestic terrorism, she said this week. According to Barbara McQuaid, an Obama-appointed U.S. attorney in Detroit, it's an aggressive use of terminology, but likely to send a message of deterrence. But it's not wrong. It's not wrong. Each administration has used the term domestic terrorism to its own needs. Jeff Sessions did it about the white supremacists in Virginia, Charlottesville. He called that domestic terrorism. It wasn't, but he called it that. And then in the Summer of Love, Bill Barr said the same thing about the terrorists in America. Joe Biden did the same thing about abortion clinic, about the people protesting abortion, called them domestic terrorists. Well, meanwhile, the East Bay Times seeks our empathy and sympathy for a couple who've lived in America illegally for 35 years, and they're now being deported, or have been deported. An ICE spokesman confirms that neither Gladys nor Nelson Gonzalez has a criminal record, but they are criminals. They came to America illegally. Entered the United States without authorization in 1989, so they're criminals. The fact that they lived here without committing crimes doesn't make it right. A Laguna Niguel couple has lived in the U.S. for 35 years, is being detained in a Louisiana immigration facility and face deportation to Colombia. Gladys Gonzalez and Nelson Gonzalez originally entered the U.S. without authorization. No, it's not without authorization. It's felony. They criminally entered the United States in 1989. And they've stayed here and leached off the country for 35 years, and now they think they're entitled to stay. They have had their appeals. They've had their appeals. They've had their appeals. They've lost all their appeals. They've exhausted it, and they have no right to stay in the country. Now, do we have empathy? Well, their children live here now because they illegally entered here and got themselves anchor babies. They're American citizens under the false interpretation of the 14th Amendment. And so now they're being sent out. Representative Mike Levin, Democrat, San Juan Capistrano, who represents that area and California's 49th District, said resources should be focused on removing individuals who pose a real threat to public safety. No, resources should be focused on criminals who violate our laws. If someone has no criminal background or gang affiliation, why are they being a priority for deportation? They weren't a priority. They entered the country illegally. This is a waste of resources. No, it's not. You don't have deterrence if you reward people for breaking the law. The fact that it took the government 35 years to deport them is not my fault. It's not your fault. It's their fault. According to ICE, immigration laws allow individuals to seek protection from deportation. And once they've gone through all legal process and appeals, they must follow the final deportation order issued by an immigration judge. The family is now working to support the couple's transition back to Colombia. After talking to over 30 attorneys, the best thing we can do right now is help our parents prepare for a new life in Colombia, the daughters wrote on their GoFundMe page. Yep. Well, your parents shouldn't have come in this country illegally. They shouldn't be rewarded for their crime. Well, here's a surprise. Drug overdoses are dropping in America precipitously. What a huge drop from fentanyl and other causes. Making great progress. I'm not sure why we made progress, but in the 12 months that ended in October 2024, the country saw a 25% decline in overdose deaths. But that's still markedly over where we were in 2015. We still had over 50,000 people die. 82,000 actually. 82,000, total. 82,000. That's a huge number of people dying from illicit drugs. So where is Scott Perry? Progressive groups hold a town hall with a focus largely on Medicaid cuts. Now, this is my congressman, Scott Perry, Republican. Used to be the leader of the Freedom Caucus, the conservative group in the House. So they held a town hall with 150 people present. It was led by the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, or AFSCME, a leftist union that undermines service delivery and governance in this country with its idiotic demands. As Republican lawmakers across the country faced a backlash during town hall meetings or refused to host them at all, one group in central Pennsylvania had their own town hall meeting Wednesday to tell Representative Scott Perry how they feel about proposed Medicaid cuts, among other concerns. About 150 people gathered at the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees Conference Center in Harrisburg to listen to a panel of speakers and ask questions. The event was hosted by Working Families Power and called People's Town Hall. Tell Rep. Scott Perry to save Medicaid. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there are no cuts proposed to Medicaid. This is a lie. This is a lie. This is a fantasy. And this is what these leftists do. There are no cuts. Nobody's cutting Medicaid. Nobody's cutting Social Security. Nobody's cutting Medicare. These are lies. These are their fantasies meant to drive people to vote for them and to help them. Scott Perry won't show up to hear from his constituents about how these reckless Medicaid cuts will impact our lives. So we're hosting our own town hall. Well, you're hosting a town hall for your own self-aggrandizement and for attention seeking. Scott Perry is 2 hours and 45 minutes from where this meeting is held. He's taking care of our district's business in Washington, D.C., in Congress. You want to talk Scott Perry? Drive to Washington, D.C. Don't try to hold some big, stupid event in which you lie about Medicaid. Anyway, no empathy for idiots like this. Well, this is from Nicholas Kristof, a leftist for the New York Times, and he wants our empathy. Musk said no one has died since aid was cut. That isn't true. Well, I don't recall him saying that, but I'll take your word for it. As the world's richest men slash America's aid for the world's poorest children, they assisted all as well. No one has died as a result of the brief pause due to sanity check on foreign aid funding, says Elon Musk. No one. Well, he says not true. In South Sudan, one of the world's poorest countries, the efforts by Musk and President Trump are already leading children to die. Peter Donde was a 10-year-old infected with HIV from his mother during childbirth, but Americans aid kept Peter strong even when his parents died from AIDS. Under PEPFAR, without the help of community health workers, Peter was unable to get his medicines, so he became sick and died in late February. And it runs through a whole host. This trying to show us all the people that could potentially be affected by the aid cuts. And this goes on and on. 1.65 million people could go without HIV prevention and care. Refugees in the South Sudan border are at particular risk. Moses was working with 145 orphans and vulnerable children with HIV. Without American assistance, he says they have begun to die. So my question to Moses is, where is the assistance from the African Union? Where is the assistance from the government of South Sudan? Where is the assistance from the United Nations, from UNAIDS, from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, from the European Union, from the Chinese, from the Russians, from the Iranians? It's non-existent. So why is it our fault? And it goes on and on. It's pathetic. Well, folks, the hit on the Voice of America appears to be real. I cannot find any news stories that are newer than March 15th. This is the VOA website. It's still up. If you click on their stories, the most recent story is March 15th. The stuff from Africa is even older than that. So it looks like the Voice of America has gone silent for now. Wow. Thank you, refrigerators, for stop making that noise. That compressor over there is very loud. Oof. Anyway, folks, 646 people currently here. All right. Boy, they're coming early with my mail. The Postal Service has been coming around noon. It used to come around 3 or 4. Wow. All right. Something happened to Corey. What's going on with Corey? What is going on with Corey here? Let's take a look at this. Your daughter is missing for 3 months. She's 23. Oh, my goodness, Corey. Oh, my goodness. I'm so sorry to hear that. Wow. That's crazy. I hope she's well. I don't mean to intrude, but I hope your daughter isn't involved with narcotics. Or wow, that's terrible. Most missing people are found. Most, not all. Most are found. Now, the story is different with children. Often missing children are not found, but many are. But most missing people are found. Oftentimes they go off the grid for whatever reason, but most are. Unfortunately, there are tragic circumstances too. Let's hope that's not the case here. Right, folks. I keep hearing the mail driving back and forth out there. It's not going to let me go all the way back in the chat, so I'm going to start the chat at 12:33, a full hour after we started. By the way, if you're curious why we started the news early today, it's because I have Neil de Beer on. Neil de Beer, it will be on at 7 p.m. South African time in about 23 minutes. Neil and I will be talking about South Africa after Ibrahim got rasooled. Did you get rasooled? Have you been made redundant? Have you been let go by your employer? Have you been declared persona non grata? Have you been asked to leave the party? Then you've been rasooled. Had a glorious rain just now in Tankwa for the first time since July last year. Wow, that's interesting. Earl Abraham Cook, Sai's back. Tonian, what happens more often than you think? It's like commentators are shadowed. What's that? What happens more often than you think? 12:33. How far will this one go back? This one goes back a little further. And you said that happens more, Tonian, Sai. Oh, mentioned you posted something, couldn't see you. Yeah, no, that happens. It happens. Yep, YouTube does that. They do that. Okay, back from supper. Hey, Erica, welcome back. Marcel, bet you Lady Pondor is there to speed up transformation. Probably. PJVW, welcome to you for your subscription. Long hot day, says Graham Kelly. Army 3275, still in the States, I take it. Oh, hanging out for a reunion. There you go. Still holding on. I hope my daughter is missing for 3 months now. I'm really sorry to hear that, Corey. Where was she last seen? Do you know where she was last seen? I don't mean to dredge up pain, but you mentioned here. These people are undocumented, have any assets to take back with them if deported. I presume they're only able to work cash and hand jobs during the day, unless they stole identities. Well, Jay, someone who's been here 35 years must have some sort of assets. So, yeah. What is the Gab website for refugees? What are you talking about there, El Marie? Hot, long, extra, couldn't want weekend to begin. Okay, how's Alaska doing up there by Canada? Are they still able to get supplies? No, they opened it back up when Trump threatened them. Hello, Marissa. Sorry you're late. That's okay. You're cutting the grass. Oh, well, okay. It's that time. It'll be time to cut grass here soon. Spring is here, and soon we will be cutting grass here. Because they sold the drugs to their buddies and they give it to the kid. And Francois Velchamon, thank you for becoming a member. Jacques Vint, welcome to you. Army has a daughter. Okay. Next, do PBS. Yeah, PBS needs to go. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that's the one that must be targeted and removed. That's extra constitutional. It's illegal. Lindy Donhauser, welcome to you, Lindy. See some African countries demonstrating against Chinese influence. Long overdue. Zambia has been doing it for a long time. They've had all kinds of things going on in Zambia for years. They are too busy buying new cars to care about their own people. Yeah, I think you're right about that. Let me go ahead and take care of something here very quickly, folks. I want to make sure you get redirected to the next broadcast. So I got to do that because I was busy setting stuff up. By the way, I didn't get to bed till late last night. So I'm going to do an appeal here in a few seconds here to folks. I need to ask you. I think most people here, it's not going to be an issue, but I do need to make this clear. So you'll be redirected to the Neil de Beer conversation after this automatically. Also later today, I'll be interviewing the gentleman who has the rifle that, not the rifle, but the model rifle that Lee Harvey Oswald's purportedly used to assassinate John F. Kennedy. So hopefully I'll be interviewing him this afternoon. Yeah, no, I actually, Yano DeBeer, I have the original footage, and I will be making a video on that too this afternoon, provide I have time. So when I'm done here with Neil DeBeer, I'll be contacting my friend, the 86-year-old who has the rifle, and see if he's available. He had to make a trip today. I don't know if he'll be back. If he's back, I'm going to go over there, and we're going to record this video. If he's not back, then I'm going to work on the video from that conversation. I saw that video several days back, but it was a TikTok that someone put together, and I wasn't going to take their content, so I was kind of stuck. But I will be making a video on that. Yep. And I'm going to address it. You know, it's going to, the audience is U.S., but South Africans are certainly welcome to read it. And I hope you watch it, not read it, but view it. Excuse me. We no longer have a postal service. Oh, I know that, Steve. I'm aware of that. But we do here still, even though it's losing money. And we have a postal worker here. One of our Navy reservists is a postal worker. Retha says we have qualifications regarding paperwork, and I wish somebody can give me definite answers. Retha, what's your question? Okay, you're asking for definite answers, but I don't see a question here. Hey, Diane, how's it going? Retha says hello at 12:36, and then people greet Retha back. And the next comment from Retha comes in at Tiny Players thinks they'll drop the BE. I wouldn't hold my breath on that. I didn't see Ramaphosa asking for them to calm down the homecoming parties for Ibrahim Rasool. Okay, and Retha, where's it at? Now I'm not finding your second message. Oh my God, this is frustrating finding stuff here. Attacked and robbed by 3 assailants, a friend to Graham. Sorry to hear that, man. I think the biggest thing Afrikaners will struggle with in the U.S. will be proper English, and everything works. I don't think you'll struggle with that. I haven't heard anything on the engineers held again. Hey, Garrett, how's it going there, man? So 2 minutes later, you come in with this comment, Rethan, saying we have qualifications regarding paperwork, and I wish somebody can give me definite answers. To what? You didn't post a question here. You said hello to everybody, and 2 minutes later, you said someone give me a straight answer on qualifications. What are you talking about? I'm lost. Did you look at presidential spokesman? Yeah, no, I saw that last night, but I mean, I got to get some sleep, guys. I went to bed at 6 o'clock and got up at 9. Neil DeBeer said, if you want to leave, he'll come and help you pack. Well, I'm not leaving Pennsylvania. Did you guys know something I don't know? Heinrich Ganeda. Can you send something to find out if it's true? Yeah, you can, Stian. Yeah, send it to the email. Saw on Facebook, President Trump is keeping an eye on Pixie Pix channel. No idea who Pixie Pix is. And why would Trump waste time with someone on Facebook or YouTube? That doesn't make any sense. I don't think he has time for that. Someone's pulling your chain. Again, I'm still waiting for Retha's question here. Hey, Savage Daughter. I have a garden service. I come cut my grass. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Tim. Lynette DeVette. Statement from SABC. Ramaphosa is getting a welcome committee ready for Rasool. South Africans. Well, that's opposite what someone just said a little while ago. Yes, well, I don't think AGO is going to survive. I think AGO is going to go away. So will they be kicked out? I think everybody's going to be kicked out of AGO because I don't think it's going to survive this current climate. And then Retha says, oh my word, questions. But you put something in the chat, Retha, saying, I don't understand. You put something comment in there, and then your response doesn't make any sense. All right, I'm just going to drop it because obviously you don't want to share it. So, okay, here we go. Yeah, no, I recorded it at 5 o'clock this morning, or after 5 o'clock. Uploaded it from my mobile. During the Neil DeBeer interview, like him or hate him, be respectful. Yep. If you tell Chris he needs a break, he tells you he's just fine. Exactly, Em. Exactly. The only time politicians tell you is when he's calling another politician a liar. Tiny players, don't hold my breath. Yeah, it's just my prediction. Okay, gotcha. Well, you're welcome to make predictions. How do I get the Colonel to see my question? Well, you have to put it in the chat. It's not here. Did you write something that's blocked? Did you write something that's banned by YouTube? I don't see any question from you. Folks, did somebody see your question? If you saw Retha's question, type it for me. Okay, Arctic answered the question. Birth certificate, marriage certificate, passports, and all academic qualifications. All right, Retha, does that help? Because I'm not seeing your question. I see your comments, but I don't know what you typed and why I can't see it. Thank you, Arctic, for answering the question. I'm not sure what the hell the question was, but thank you for answering it. Okay. Yes, Jan Fundril, I answered your question earlier. I did see that. Your qualifications is not recognized in the U.S. depending on the requirements. You'll need to do the U.S. equivalent. You don't need to do anything. You're wasting your time doing it there. It will be done here. You'll get help. We spend $2.7 billion. I mean, if you want to waste your money in South Africa, not even know if you're going to be accepted in the refugee program, that's your prerogative. I'm not going to dissuade you from that. But that is all done in America when you get here. And we have, for refugees, we have help for that. We have sponsors to do that. So if you want to take your time to do that, that's on you. But I would say that, I mean, I wouldn't lose any sleep over that. Yep. Yes, Jan, I looked at that video, and I will be making a video. I just discussed that a few minutes ago. Hugo, here is the Retha's question. We need to know what documents we need. Okay. Again, the link is at the top of the chat. It's pinned there, unless it's been unpinned. The link is at the top of the chat to the Substack, which has the videos, which answer these questions. Not to mention, we've answered these questions 1,000 times in these streams. Why are you asking? When you get an email from the embassy, it will tell you exactly what you need to bring. And if you'd watched my video about the person who went to the embassy, I read the email, and it told you exactly what documents to bring. What to bring. Email from the American Embassy for your interview. Below is a list of items that you're required to bring to your appointment. Please note that you will not have access to your phone or any electronics while at the embassy. So plan to have printed documents if needed. A passport for each applicant, if you have a passport. A South African ID for each applicant, if you have it. If you don't, then you can't bring it. Physical copies of any documents you want to provide for your case. Okay? Note, minors under the age of 18 are not required to have identification for U.S. Embassy access, but please bring any identification for minors, for example, their passport, to submit as part of their application packet. Please bring your child's unabridged birth certificate to the appointment. Unabridged, okay? That means something to you guys. All right? That means something to you guys. What's the WUZA, Corey? What are you saying, WUZA? You get evaluated in the U.S. and your South African question get converted to U.S. equivalent. Exactly, Heinrich. I've said that many, many times. So, again, made a video just 2 days ago, and 77,000 people took the time to watch it. It's updated on the list, and that video tells you exactly this, okay? Yep. Now, there's no identifying information here for the person, so I'm not worried about you seeing that because I printed out, I copied and put it in a Word document and printed it out. So, where's this thing at? 82,000. Breaking news, huge update on President Trump's refugee program, okay? So, right here, it's there. I don't know why this is so hard for people. Retha, I'm not picking on you, but this has been asked and answered over and over again. Welcome back. This is Chris in central Pennsylvania, and I have to tell you that a lot of people become incredibly frustrated over President Trump's refugee status offer to come to the United States for Afrikaners suffering from unjust racial persecution. Retha, you do not need to apologize for asking, okay? And do not take offense. I'm not yelling at you. I'm not giving you a hard time. It's just frustrating. Instead of coming to chat and asking questions, I would ask that people go to the channel and look at the videos that are produced. That's all I ask. There's a whole playlist for this issue. A whole playlist. Retha, no issue. I got no beef with you. Not angry at you, and I hope you don't take offense because I'm going on about this. But the questions have been asked and answered, okay? Many times. And it really is distracting at some point. It's not that difficult to go. If people don't understand how the internet works, then ask someone. If you're over the age of 40 and you don't understand the internet, then ask your kids or grandkids. You can find a 12-year-old who'll be able to tell you how to find everything on the internet. They could probably find you the actual rest of the files for the Kennedy assassination. That's all. So Aretha, it's here. So I'm not being snarky. I'm just telling you folks, there it is. That's email, and that's what they told you. So this is my video I made a few days ago, and it answers this question. Unfortunately, discrimination. By making this video, all I did was cause all kinds of other chaos because Afrikaners, I don't get this. I don't get this. People watch the video and go, oh, so I can only go if I've been stabbed? Oh, I can only go if I'm white? I can go if I'm a farmer? None of that was said in the video. Nothing like that. I don't know where people get this nonsense from. It's just nonsense. A lot of people are like, well, it's been so long. Folks, it's been about 40 days. And I've been trying to reassure people to stay calm. Well, nothing's happening. Well, you don't know that nothing's happening. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. Well, I have a major update for you today. And this is born out of a situation in which people received an email. Many of these are people whom, when I first reported this back on the 7th of February, on that Monday after the 7th of February, so 8, 9, 10 February, the U.S. Embassy in Hatfield issued a statement and put out an email address for those interested to contact them. I shared that email address initially with many of my viewers. Some of them took that up and sent a message in. Well, they've been getting responses back. So let's get into this and talk about what happened. This is breaking news, major update to reassure those who don't believe there's a program, and for those who are rubbishing President Trump's offer, there in fact is a program and movement is taking place. And let me explain what we know based on what happened today. The following is a summary of what happened today with the South African who contacted the embassy back in early February when I shared the embassy's email address for their inquiries. Now, I don't know this individual personally, and I've only been in contact as the current events have unfolded. However, based on my queries, my experience with embassy staff, visa applicants' interviews, and my knowledge of this process, the information shared appears to be accurate and genuine. So let me state up front quite clearly that I am relaying information from a South African, which I obtained via an interview. I cannot vouch for the veracity of the information. However, I am confident that it is genuine and accurate. And once again, I do not represent the United States government. I'm a retired colonel from the U.S. Army. I do not work for the U.S. government, and my views are mine and mine alone. This individual is one of several who forwarded an email they received from the U.S. Embassy inviting them to come into the embassy for an interview. Now, my initial concern with the email was whether the message was genuine or not. So I called the U.S. Department of State and requested confirmation last Thursday, the 13th of March, 2025. A colleague from there expressed concern as well, someone I've known for 20 years, as he had not heard about the interview. And this person works in the Africa Bureau. So I was concerned. To date, the Department of State has not given me an answer to my request. However, given the information my sources provided, I'm confident that this is all legitimate. So here's what we discovered today, the 18th of March, 2025. This individual was invited to the embassy via an email message that I referred to earlier. The email required the person to come in and said it would last 1 to 2 hours depending on the number of people applying. What to bring, a list of things, passport for each applicant, a South African identification for each applicant, physical copies of any documents that you may want to provide for your case. And then they said if you need an Afrikaans. Yeah, I paused. I put the microphone off, sorry, because I didn't want people to get feedback from the speaker if it was out of sync. I was just saying that that's the email that the guy got, okay? So sorry. To English interpreter, please let them know so they can make sure that someone's there that speaks Afrikaans. And so they gave step-by-step instructions. Show up at the embassy at this time. Your interview appointment time is this time, 30 minutes later. So they expect you to arrive 30 minutes prior to this. They also tell you where to provide your staff. They give you the address in Arcadia, in Hatfield. And they tell you how to go through the screening process and also tell you where to store your personal items that cannot go into the building. Remind you can't take any weapons, of course. And do keep all documents with you for the interview. And they say you can bring water or snacks as needed. Okay. So the email was sent by the Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration representative from the U.S. Department of State. That's the email that got the person in the door. Now, once in the door at the embassy in Hatfield today, the 18th of March, 2025, the following transpired. The meeting was held at the U.S. Embassy in Pretoria. The person involved met with a gentleman who advised them that the meeting was purely a preliminary interview. Now, the interviewee, the person that went there, described this as a fact-finding mission, because that's the question I ask. It sounds like a fishing expedition or a fact-finding mission to find out who actually has interest in what it's all about. The interviewer read a script related to the interview where it clarified that this is neither an entry to the U.S. or acceptance into the U.S. Refugee Assistance Program. The purpose of the interview was to collect information for when the program will be formalized. Now, once the program is open, these findings would be used to determine whether the case would be recommended for refugee resettlement. The applicable process would then take effect and follow the appropriate process. This meeting was primarily about documentation and why the primary refugee on the application should be considered for refugee resettlement. No time frame was offered, none was given. So it appears that the email was not only genuine, but the interview is also genuine, and it is really to determine interest.
Are you looking for the most affordable way to add electric heating and cooling?
So only a small number of people who sent emails to the embassy apparently are getting these appointments. And we know this because this individual was one of 5 family members that sent the email, but only 3 of them received invites to the embassy. The current process that's underway right now would appear to be largely an effort to gauge interest in the refugee resettlement program with the offer from President Trump and the preliminary background work for those who are actually going to apply. Doesn't look like they're looking at everybody. The 3 invitations received were all based on the original email where they detailed what happened leading to the request for refugee status. Now, I asked about the conduct of the officer. Okay, this is the part where I talked about in the video about the officer asking what was he like, Here's a link to that video. So let me give this to everybody that's here in case you don't know where it's at. I've got to wrap up this up because Neil DeBeer is waiting. Okay, so I just called him while it was playing. So that's a link to that particular video and explains what happened in that interview, okay? That should be, you shouldn't take from this, you have to be stabbed or you have to be a victim of assault. You shouldn't take that. And you shouldn't take anything other than the fact that this is a good sign that 40 days into the announcement, they're actually doing preliminary interviews with people to gauge interest and to get through the process of actually doing this, okay? So hang in there. So Retha, don't take offense. None was implied. None was intended. Thank you for being here. I've got to end this stream, and Neil DeBeer will be waiting for me. So stick around. You're going to be redirected automatically to the next stream, and we'll start here in about 4 minutes, okay? Appreciate it. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done so already. No super chats. Actually got the one there. Thank you for that. And 2 new members. Thank you so much for that, guys. Apologize for cutting early, but we've got Neil today, and a lot of people want to hear what he has to say. I am one of the 67,000 interested in no mail. Well, Jacques, okay. Oh, gosh, I can't go anywhere. Jacques, you gave your information to the South African Chamber of Commerce. That's not the U.S. government. The U.S. government didn't have your information until a couple of days ago. A couple of days ago, Neil Diamond carried that information to the embassy. There's no way in God's green acre you're going to get an email from them. How do you think they're going to get those emails? Unless they're electronic, they're going to have to type them all in and make mistakes. So even if they got them electronically, they're going to have to put that in the system and run it through. The people who got emails, as I said in that video, and as I've said 100 times, are the people who listened to me on February 7th or February 10th when I gave them the email address to the embassy. And I said, well, you can take your chances and send it. It's the only information we have. You can send it. Some people sent them emails on February 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 15th from that email address at the embassy, which Hendo has kindly put in the chat earlier. That email address went to the embassy. Those people got a response saying, we'll get back with you. Now some people are getting back. Again, listen to what I'm saying. Most people will not get a response right now. This is preliminary. Preliminary. They're only talking to a few people. We don't have thousands of people to descend upon our consulates and embassies and rented buildings in South Africa to address a non-existent program. They are Thank you, Hendo. They are writing the program now. Take a deep breath, okay? If you gave your name to South African Chamber of Commerce, why did you give it to them? What do they have to do with immigration? What do they have to do with refugee resettlement? Nothing. They're a separate entity. They're not the U.S. government. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't have given it to them. But what I'm saying is that if you expected something because you gave it to them, you don't understand what you're doing. How in the world would the South African Chamber of Commerce have anything to do with U.S. immigration and access to the United States? They don't. Get a grip. Get a grip. Okay? Guys, calm down. The good news for you, if you gave it to them, is they've now given that list to the United States government. And on top of that, those who've given their information to the Amerikaners group, that information is going to be delivered to the embassy soon too. Okay? All right? There's the email address. Crash their servers. Crash their servers. That's what they get for not answering my questions. All right, got to go. Neil DeBeer's waiting. We'll see you in a few minutes, okay? Cool? Good to go? Everybody good? Everybody chilled? All right. Thank you, Lynette, for the 28 Rand super chat. Do appreciate that. Oh, and there's Debbie Fox with another one. 140 Rand. Thank you for that, guys. All right, thank you. We'll see you in just a moment on the other program. Cool. All right. Wow, that was fun. That was fun. Okay, cheers.